Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast. Well, we're on the second. We're doing a double header tonight. It's been a fascinating show. We went into Eastern medicine and anti-aging and matrix stuff. Very deep subject, and it's a great way to end the night. I'm very excited, of course, to have Sean Kanan on the show, who I've been a fan of a long time, and I can't believe he looks exactly pretty much the same as he did. I saw him in Karate Kid 3.
It's good lighting and a lot of Botox.
Oh, I don't believe that. And you've got a great book out that we want everybody to hear about. It's called Welcome to the Kumite.
Yeah, Welcome to the Kumite. So Welcome to the Kumite is the sequel to my third book, which is called Way of the Cobra. And the tagline for Welcome to the Kumite is conquer your greatest opponent, which of course is you.
Wow.
And how do you conquer your greatest opponent? Well, you do that by experiencing a metaphoric death each day and emerging back as a better, stronger, wiser, kinder version of who you were yesterday. And Kumite is a traditional form of martial arts training to prepare you for combat, but Kumite also means an epic confrontation, an epic battle. And that's kind of the metaphor for the book, that you're in this epic battle against yourself, always striving to become a better version.
So this is not typically the way Western civilization thinks, is it?
Well, I think Western civilization is very much a nanosecond driven society that looks for instant gratification, sort of hustling for dopamine. And you're right. And, one of the biggest points that I make in the book is if you build a bulletproof process for anything that you do, you can stay out of the results and trust the results are going to come. And it doesn't matter what you use the process for. For instance, if I asked you what you do to prepare to drive a car, it's probably about 99.9% the same as what I do, right? Get out of the car, we unlock it, we get in, check the mirrors, put the seatbelt on, maybe put the nav in, and we go in reverse and drive and follow the street signs, and we don't worry about whether or not we're going to get to our destination. We expect that we're going to get there. Well, that's because you've built a bulletproof process for when you drive a car. Now, of course, obstacles and curveballs happen, but if you build a process for anything that works and you apply it effectively and with consistency, the results are going to come. And what a lot of the book is about is utilizing the philosophy of Kaizen, which is a Japanese philosophy that became very prevalent after World War II, when Douglas MacArthur, and a guy named Edward Demings were trying to reinvigorate the Japanese industrial base, because it had been completely eradicated from World War II. And the premise of Kaizen is really simple. It's slow and steady and consistent improvement. And the philosophy is that over the long haul, that's more effective and gains better results than kind of the grip it and rip it, swing for the fences type thing. There's definitely a time and a place for swinging for the fences, but with most things, if you commit to improving slowly and incrementally, but consistently, the results will not only appear, but they'll be greater than if you kind of swing for the fences all the time.
Probably becomes more in your DNA.
Well, it's funny you talk about DNA, because in my first book, Way of the Cobra, I say, look, there's two things that you have to do if you want to be successful. And the very first one is that you have to accept that your life is your fault. You have to accept responsibility for where you are in your life is the sum total of your habits and all the choices that you've made. But the second thing is that you have to accept that the universe wants you to win. And how do I know that? Well, it's ingrained in our DNA to survive. How does a baby know not to breathe when its head goes under the water? Why have Homo sapiens for 200,000 years were not the apex predators? They were running away from saber-toothed tigers. And those ferocious felines are a footnote in anthropology books, and we're still here. And it's because it's ingrained from birth in us to, adapt and overcome and win.
It's very interesting. It's like a dog before they lay down, they walk in a circle, small circle, and then they lay
You know,
down.
mine does that usually before she pees on the carpet. By the way, I just got a new carpet, and we're taking bets on how long it takes before she pees all over. I'm looking at it right now, and like it's beautiful, and it's new, and it looks wonderful, and I'm just imagining that probably got about 24 hours of this.
So you sound like a historian. You almost I feel like I'm in
I love it.
college.
Yeah.
It comes across the passion, the wisdom. You seem like a very old soul. You don't seem like somebody that is young as you are. You sound like you've been lived 1,000 years already or more.
Well, I'm 56 years old, so
Wow, you look phenomenal.
thank you. But I tell everybody when they read my books, before you think that I'm levitating 3 feet above the ground on top of a mountain in Kathmandu, it's because I've made every mistake in the book 12 times. Okay. I am a guy that has just banged his head against the wall until finally I learned a few things. And, in these books, if I can point out some of the traps and the pitfalls, um, there's a quote, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but it's something to the effect of, somebody who's really wise doesn't learn from their own mistakes. They learn from the mistakes of others so they don't have to make them. Now, I don't know if I agree with that 100%. I think there is definitely something to be said for making your own mistakes because you learn maybe a little more deeply and it stays with you. But there definitely are some mistakes that I think I probably could have learned from other people's experiences and not had to, encounter them myself.
So with that being said,
Mhm.
what's your thoughts on because sometimes mistakes sometimes take us to areas we normally wouldn't go
Mhm.
and could be life changing in a positive way.
Absolutely. You know, you're familiar with the story of the Chinese farmer. We shall see. Have you,
No,
you don't know that story?
no.
So there was a Chinese farmer. He was well into his seventh decade. He lived with his one son and his one horse. And he was known as a man of wisdom throughout the provinces. And one day his one horse ran away, and his neighbor said, "What bad luck?" And the farmer said, "We shall see." And the very next day, the horse comes running back at the head of six other wild Mustangs right into the corral. And the neighbor says, "What good luck? Now you can plow your fields in a fraction of the time." And the farmer thought about it and said, "We shall see." And the next day, his son went out to go break one of the wild Mustangs, and he was thrown to the ground, broke his leg, which was a life threatening injury at the time. And the neighbor said, "What bad luck?" And the farmer said, "We shall see." And the next day, the local warlord came at the head of 100 men to conscript all the other young men to go fight in some distant province. But the farmer's son couldn't fight because he had a broken leg. The neighbor said, "What good luck?" And the farmer said, "We shall see." The point of it is that very often what seems like a negative or catastrophic event in the moment with the expansion of time often proves to be very beneficial. I use the analogy of my getting divorced about 25 years ago. It was a soul crushing, crisis of conscience for me. And had that not happened, it wouldn't have opened me up to marry my wife, Michelle, who's my soulmate. And, just it's fantastic. And had I not assigned a negative story to that circumstance, I could have saved myself a lot of pain and suffering. And so, human beings, we're largely governed by the stories we tell ourselves. And the stories are just usually excuses and rationalizations for the things that happen in our lives. But unfortunately, humans are really bad historians. We all create stories based on what we see through a prism with 1,000 different facets that are unique to each of us, right? And so if
Mhm.
we agree that we're really bad historians, why not at least create stories that empower ourselves than disempower ourselves? So I'm a big proponent of taking the stories in your life that you maybe have been carrying around that are disempowering you and learning how to reframe them and have those stories serve you. And there's one other great story I'll tell you. It's not mine, but it's a
By the
really
way, I like the story about the horse and
oh, about the farmer. Yeah, that's
farmer.
a good
Yeah,
one, right? So
that's a
there's
great
a
one.
there's a there's a journalist, and she's sitting on the ground next to a homeless guy in Skid Row. She's doing an article, and she says, "How is it that you came to this place in your life?" And he said, "Well, I had a father who could never keep a job. He drank whiskey day after day, year after year. He beat me and he beat my twin brother. He said, how else would I have grown up besides being, a bum and losing everything? And she was so intrigued by this that she decided that she wanted to go find the homeless man's twin and see what became of him. And so with a lot of work and a lot of research, she found out where the twin lived, and it wasn't at all what she expected. He was living in a beautiful large house. He was a doctor, a wonderful family. And she said, how is it that you didn't wind up being an alcoholic like your father? And he said, with a father like that, I vowed that I'd never drink alcohol. So you have two people, exact same set of circumstances, very different stories attached, very different outcomes.
So you've been in martial arts for since you were probably a young man, young boy.
Mm-hmm.
How much has martial arts played in the philosophy of what you're talking about?
It's played tremendously. Regarding the book, I mean, the book is structured that I'm the sensei. You're a student in my dojo, the dojo of Cobra Life, and Cobra is an acronym. It's formed from the words character, optimization, balance, respect, and abundance. And the chapters are divided into belts. So you go from white belt to black belt. And then, of course, once you start walking the Kumite, which is the sequel, you once again become a white belt. But what I illustrate is that even though you're starting at the beginning again, you're no longer starting at the beginning as a beginner. And again, that book is also divided the same way. The chapters are divided into belts.
What kind of education, other than life, traditional education, have you had?
In high school, I did 2 years of public school, and then I did 2 years at a pretty prestigious boarding school. I graduated in 1985. I went to school at Boston University, began my political science degree, and I knew I wanted to pursue acting, and then I had to go to Los Angeles or New York. And I figured it was easier to starve where it was warm. So I went to Los Angeles and I finished my political science degree at UCLA.
So you did finish, you got a bachelor's degree in poli-sci.
I did indeed.
Good job.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm not saying that because
no, I get it. I mean, I had gotten Karate Kid 3 before I graduated college, and I very easily could have, especially at that point in my life, I very easily could have said, hey, listen, I'm about to start a big studio movie. What do I need to finish college for? And, I came from a family where my dad went to Wharton went to Brown and Wharton. So, I mean, education was real important in my family. And I really thank God that I had parents who both insisted that I finish college. And it was one of the best things I ever did.
So with this wisdom and knowledge of life experiences and martial arts and a good solid foundation of education, are you doing any classes, teaching any classes or lectures on philosophy in the book?
I'm doing a lot of that. I spoke yesterday at USC. I was a guest of the Speak to Lead organization, which is the premier speaking organization at USC. That was a whole lot of fun. I have a really vibrant one-on-one coaching business. I love coaching people. It is absolutely, it's like a way of drawing energy. I love to inspire my clients, and I get inspired by them. I love speaking to large groups. I love speaking to small groups. So yeah, that's something that I'm really very, very passionate about.
Well, I've met a lot of people through the years, just like you probably have. And we're close at the age, except you look like my son, even though we're closer in age. You look like could be my son, and I'm your father. You probably played me in another movie and you were bald, but look,
I sent you the photo, so you have it.
But you come across as somebody that I've worked with a lot of coaches through the years myself, but you come across as that guy that could sway a room into thinking and living a way that, of course, this amazing book that you just came out with could be beneficial. But having you be able to share that book with a live audience, how impactful would that be?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I wrote the books, and I decided I was going to elevate myself to the position of being a sensei, a teacher, I realized that, I had to create a bond with my readers. And the best way of doing that is to share my shortcomings, my faults, my foibles, um, and not speak down to them, but speak as somebody who has experienced, like the Rolling Stones say, my moments of doubt and pain, and I think in doing that, it humanizes me. And it's not so much that what I'm saying in my books is stuff that you probably haven't heard. And I say in the beginning of Way of the Cobra, I say, I've got good news and bad news. And I said, first, the bad news is I don't have the answer. I don't have a secret that I'm going to give you that's going to turn you into this uber successful beast that you want to become. But here's the good news. It's like the Zen riddle. How did the ship get in the bottle? It was always there. Everything that you need is within you. I'm just going to help you rediscover it and get in touch with it. And a lot of times it's not even the message, it's the messenger. I equate it to, when you're like 15 and 16 and you've got that tension with your father, and it doesn't matter if they're giving you really good advice, you just
Right.
can't hear it because you're in that crazy young man
Sure.
anger thing. And a lot of, Mark Twain said, what did he say? He said, I was amazed at how little my father knew when I was 16. And by the time I was 25, I was amazed at how much he had learned in those few years. And, it's true. It's sometimes it's the messenger who's able to finally convey the message and have it sink in.
So people of all ages can learn something. There's nuggets in this book that individuals, no matter what the age is, that it's not over yet. There's things people still can do to improve.
Absolutely. Well, I think, if you're a successful human, you constantly remain a student. You constantly are doing self-diagnostics to increase your self-awareness, to grow as a person, and ultimately to pass it on to help other people do the same. I mean, I'm a firm believer that, we're all like threads woven into this huge tapestry that is the universe. That's us, and we are all bound to each other. And the more we help ourselves and grow and learn, the more we can help other people. And it's kind of like the Force in Star Wars. When you put good stuff out there into the Force gets stronger, and when you don't, the Force wanes.
Is that kind of like karma?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is like karma. Look, I believe in the universal laws. There are universal laws. I think there's 12 of them. At least there's 12 that I talk about in Welcome to the Kumite. The most popular one is the law of attraction. It's got the best publicist, but there's other laws like the law of vibration, which I think is something that's really, really interesting. Only with magnets do opposites attract. Other than that, in the universe, like attracts like. And if you are living a life of gratitude and abundance and wealth, that's what you're going to attract. And if you're living a life of, always thinking the grass is greener somewhere else and living in envy and from a place of scarcity, the universe thinks that's what you want and it gives you more of it. And I firmly believe that. Somebody told me this once when they were trying to teach this to me. They said, if you don't believe me, next time you're walking down the street, look at a complete stranger and just smile at them. Just smile at them. I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. And so I'm walking down the street and I see a guy who was definitely not having a real good day. And I just looked at him and I smiled at him. And he looked at me like I was out of my tree, right? And he looked at me for a minute and then he looked at me and then he started smiling. And it completely changed his dynamic. And it's true. What I was giving him, I changed his vibration with my vibration. And I know it sounds kind of woo-woo and all that stuff, but there really is something to it. There are universal laws. And I talk a lot about in the book that, there have been lies that have been foisted on us. And one of the biggest lies is that life is fair. Life isn't fair. Life isn't unfair. Life is just life. It doesn't have a dog in the hunt. Life just is what life is. And we have no control over it. And frankly, the only thing that we do have control over is our emotional responses to external stimuli, how we choose to respond to any given event. You can't control other people because, whenever you try to assert your will on someone else, you have the exact opposite effect. They recoil from you. You know what I mean? The more
Sure.
think of it as, the best thing I can think of is, Pepe Le Pew, and he's got that cat that he loves. And the more he grabs the cat, the more the cat's just trying to get
Sure.
away from him. And
Good
that's how it
analogy.
is. And, when you learn to allow things to come to you, and that doesn't mean not working your ass off for things, but, when you stop trying to control things and get a little zen with it, boy, the world opens up to you. And it rains blessings on you. I believe that. I've seen it in my
Well,
own life.
you've lived it. So what period of time in your life did that happen where you said you kind of thought of, I've tried and I pushed,
Yeah.
I needed to stop and allow what's going to happen. I'm doing all the right stuff. And now I'm going to just let it come to me. When did that happen?
Well, a lot of this change in my life happened a little after my 50th birthday. I had a pretty wild 50th birthday. I received a star on the Palm Springs Walk of Fame. I had a
Huge.
birthday party that lasted about 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
It was out there. And, after the smoke had cleared and after the hangover had subsided, I kind of looked in the mirror and was like, what's next? What's my next act here? And I felt kind of like a fraud. I mean, I was about 40 pounds overweight. I had no prospects for acting work. And I was definitely engaging with some old demons more frequently than I probably would like to admit. And I decided I needed to start doing some things very differently, very quickly, because I was rapidly slipping into mediocrity. And I decided that there was going to be no more of this waiting for my ship to come in. I decided I was going to build the damn ship. I just had to figure out how to do it. And the philosophy and the strategies that I used to do that, to turn my life around, to build it back from the bottom up, that's what's in the books. And I know the stuff works. If you work it, what is the information in my book will change your life, period.
I'm excited. I read a book a week.
Wow.
I typically do. I read pretty quick. But I would love to, I look forward to getting the book and reading it.
Yeah. So
And,
I hope you'll read the first one first. I hope you'll read Way of the
oh,
Cobra
really?
first, and then read Welcome to the Kumite. Yeah.
That's what you suggest.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll definitely read it within a week. It's
You
a
give me
great,
a,
it's
you
an
give me
easy,
you give
it's
me
a
a lot of
fun
homework.
read. It's cheeky. It'll make you smile. It's not preachy. It's like talking to me. It's conversational.
Well, I think it's more relatable
Yeah.
because of when you come to people with genuine, like you care and it's
Yep.
real and I think it hits people more effectively. And I think you're wise enough to realize that.
Yeah. When I spoke yesterday at USC and I
Uh-huh.
spoke to young kids, that's a really good litmus test because, young kids have a fantastic bullshit meter, and
They do.
they really can tell if you're, selling them snake oil or if you're connecting with them. And it was funny. I took a chance in my speech and I said a few things on a college campus that I wasn't sure if it was going to go over well. And I said, look, make no mistake about it. Winning matters. I said, there's a whole movement in society right now that winning is somehow non-inclusive. And I said, there's some truth to that because there are, the vast group of people that are not winning in life is way more inclusive than the people that are crushing their goals and becoming, better versions of themselves. So yeah, I suppose that's true. But I said, you get out in the real world and nobody really cares about ninth place trophies and participation ribbons. Okay. I said, average and mediocrity is not rewarded in society. And I knew I was taking a chance saying this to college kids, and I was
Sure.
really curious how they were going to receive it. And I saw the kids just going, yeah, they get it. People understand that intrinsically there is a value to winning, not winning in the sense where for me to win, you have to lose, but for me to win against myself. And I think when you do it in that kind of way, in a way where you're not, shaming other people to win, but, showing them that there is a difference between winning and not winning. And look, if you do your best, that's great. Okay. And you don't win every time. And I've lost many times, but, to not differentiate between winning and losing, that ain't what's going to cure cancer. You know what I mean? That's not going to solve the homeless problem. Okay. That's called communism.
And that sounds like another possible podcast.
Very well, maybe.
Politics are one of my history and politics are one of my favorite subjects. You and I could probably have a good conversation on a lot of topics.
Yeah.
So tell me about your career, what's going on, because I mean, I hear this wise old sage and this young man that I'm looking at. You're not your age, of course, but you have all this wisdom. But how have you? Because when you were in Palm Springs and you were at that area where you were around 40 pounds overweight,
Mhm.
and you were reflecting, have you gotten your career in an area that you never even imagined at that point where you were at that?
When I started putting all this stuff into motion, 2020 was a very difficult year for many, many people. And I hesitate to say this because, I had probably the best year of my career in 2020. It started off with me doing back-to-back films with Bruce Willis in Puerto Rico. And then I came back to the States and I did a film for Lifetime. I did Cobra Kai. I got my return to my role of Deacon Sharp on The Bold and the Beautiful, which I started in, I think, 2000 for a contract role. What else happened? I think 2020, so I won the Emmy in 2020. My show
That's a good year.
It's a pretty good year. Yeah.
Very good year.
And I was like, wow, if I had just done this stuff sooner, maybe this could have, but everything happens when it's meant to happen. I mean, I got it together when I decided I was going to get it together. And so, things are great now. I'm on Bold and the Beautiful. It's the #1 daytime show in the world.
Bold and the Beautiful is the #1 daytime show in the world.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Syndicated in, I think, 40 countries. So that's amazing to be a part of that. We
just speak 40 different languages.
I speak a couple, but not 40. But
I want to see that. I want to have a beer with you. You don't know if you drink beer. And I want to just see really quick clips.
Yeah, you can see them. I mean, everything from Polish to everything.
So tell us about the movies with Bruce Willis, because I wasn't aware about the movies with Bruce Willis. But what movies were they?
I did a film called Survive the Game with Bruce Willis and Chad Michael Murray. And then I came back to the States, and it was the same director doing another movie with Bruce. They were doing 3 movies with Bruce in Puerto Rico. And he called me and said, come on back. We're going to put you in the next one. And I was like, oh my God, amazing. And so I did a film called The Fortress.
I saw that movie.
Oh, you saw it?
I didn't know you were in it.
Yeah, I was one of the.
I saw it a while back. I'm going to watch the movie. I have the movie at home.
Yeah, I was one of the lead mercs. In Survive the Game, I had a mohawk. You can't miss me. And then I went back and my hair had grown in, and I did Survive the Game, and then I did The Fortress. And it was bittersweet. I mean, it was pretty evident that Bruce was having a lot of difficulty.
I heard that.
I mean, I had grown up watching him and was a fan. It was hard for him. You could see that.
God bless him and his family. Great guy. Those movies you're talking about, I mean, typically, what are they about? How long were they? Like a month long to make? Were they pretty quick movies, right?
I was there for a couple weeks. I mean, I didn't have huge role. I had supporting roles in each of them, so I think they shot them really quickly.
Right.
I think they probably filmed each one for a month. Yeah, and I was there for probably 12, 13 days on each one.
So, out of all the acting that you've done so far, what has been your favorite role?
That's a tough one. I would say it's a toss-up between playing Deacon Sharp in The Bold and the Beautiful and probably playing Sam Stevens on Studio City, which is the show that I created. uh, with my writing partner for that, Jason Antignoli. And, Sam is kind of like me about 10 years ago. The story is about Sam Stevens, who plays Dr. Pierce Hartley on the #2 soap opera in the world, Hearts on Fire. And he's an aging soap star. And he's a guy that he's a good guy, but he can't get out of his own way. And he's still figuring a lot of stuff out. And he's got a multitude of flaws. And, the show is intermittently funny and heartbreaking, and it's got a very unique shooting style. If you haven't seen it, I would really encourage you to see it. We got nominated for 19 Emmys, I believe,
Wow.
in our first, 19 Emmys total, and we won 3 or 4.
You're an amazing human being. I have all these women all of a sudden that you can't see, but they've come into the studio once they heard that you're on the podcast. I have women coming in and everybody's like pining around the screen watching you right now. Do you recognize him from The Bold and the Beautiful?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now is that why you came up to see because you heard he was going to because of that movie?
Just him, not you.
Oh, well, I'm just a messenger. I don't expect anybody to see me.
Can we say hi to him?
You can say hi from where you're
Hi,
at.
how are you?
Hi.
So all these, so you have a huge fan base.
Oh, wow.
Huge.
You probably have people
You
come
know,
up to you daily everywhere, don't you? Everybody comes up to see you.
No. But I always joke that if I have one talent in life, I am really good at grabbing coattails bigger than me.
I was gonna be. It's to be hot.
But getting on General Hospital was really great, and then getting on Bold and the Beautiful, really great. Getting on Cobra Kai, the #1 show.
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Yes, Cobra Kai. Like, do you?
So this is like totally. Oh wow, there they are. So they broke through security. Now, how did you get here? Did you go through the window or?
I own.
Oh, she owns a building. I'm sorry.
Are you guys sisters?
Oh, I wish.
You look like sisters.
No,
Oh,
I wish
okay.
you were.
Well,
So, how are you? Are you good?
I'm great. Actually, I'm really good. I'm kind of a little fluish right now, if I'm being really honest, and probably have a little bit of a NyQuil hangover. My wife.
You look phenomenal. I would never guess that you're sick. So what's been the most unusual thing in your career, and since you've been doing this #1 show on Netflix that everybody's just talking about?
Yes, sir.
What's been the most unusual thing?
Does anybody come up to you and said, "Oh my God, you look younger in person," or does anybody come up and said, I'm sure you probably get a lot of weird off the wall, but what one thing comes to mind that maybe in a positive?
I gotta be honest. My life in Los Angeles is really normal.
Good.
First of all, there's actors all over the place in LA, so people don't really care. But my life,
that's true.
Very, very normal life in Los Angeles, which is great. Every now and then I get to do something that's kind of unique and interesting. I heard a police officer describe their life, and they said, "My life is lots and lots of boredom, punctuated by occasional chaotic, crazy, interesting stuff." And I guess that's kind of how mine is. I got to do Dancing with the Stars in Italy. That was a pretty amazing.
Wow.
That was pretty incredible.
You did probably very well.
I lasted 9 weeks.
You did very well because you're very athletic, and I already know you could do anything athletic.
I did okay. I got out right at the point where it started getting really hard, though. I mean, I'd never had any dance experience at all, and it was, and I had to do it in Italian too.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I didn't speak Italian very well at the time. I do now. I speak almost fluent Italian now, but at the time, which was 15 years ago, I didn't. And so that made it harder. I think honestly, the most incredible thing that's happened in my career is that once I kind of made these changes in my life, seeing how I was treated differently in the business. I always sort of felt like Rodney Dangerfield. Like I don't get any respect. And the reason was because I wasn't acting in a way that really merited getting any respect. And then once I started, living my life with integrity and character and all of that stuff, I was amazed at how people started treating me the way that I always wanted to be treated. So for me, that's the biggest, craziest thing that's ever happened. And it's not really crazy at all. It makes perfect sense.
It almost sounds like welcome to the Kumite. Kumite.
Exactly.
It sounds like there's a correlate. There's a
Yeah.
relationship with what
Yeah.
you just said in the book. Am I correct?
Indeed. Yes, there is.
I'm so excited to read your books. I love.
Oh,
I love.
I really want to hear what you think about it. And we had mentioned possibly doing an event together that you would that you would moderate. And I think after you read the books, I think you'll be on board. I hope so.
Well, I already am on board because I surround myself with really good. I'm around a lot of people that are about education and about the greater good.
Yeah.
People that are trying to do more for society than just take.
Yeah.
That want to help people. I know there's a lot of, and you're a poli sci major. There's a lot of political uproar going on in the world right now, not just in the United States.
Yeah.
And I try to focus more on the things that we need to do to help each other. And it's okay for us to disagree. It's okay to be different.
But we can do it civilly.
And that's what we need. And that's what we need to get back to, isn't it? Now, this group that you talked to the other day at USC was called Speak to Learn. Is that correct?
It was called Speak to Lead.
To lead. So that younger generation, typically, I understand, and I could be wrong. I have younger kids, but a lot of the younger generation seems, and I look at you, I feel because you look phenomenally young, but I mean, you look great. A lot of the younger generation seems, and you can correct me because you're more involved with a lot of the stuff you're talking about more than I am. A lot of the younger generation seems to be, if you don't agree with me, I can't be your friend, and I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing I said to them. I was talking about what it takes to be successful. And I said, while you're partying someone else's training, while you're being offended by what someone else has said that you don't agree with, someone else is growing and learning. And, when you're sleeping in, someone else is working out. And when you meet them, you will lose. And I said, don't seek to be a victim. Don't seek to be offended all the time. If you're always looking to be offended, you'll find ways to be offended. You
get what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, it's that vibrational thing, and people look for that confirmation bias. They just want to hear a regurgitation of what they think, and they don't like to hear. And then I also said to him, and I think this is true. Look, you're not going to change most people's opinion,
right?
All right. So be judicious with whom you choose to get in the mud, because unless you're going to have a really civil, in-depth conversation with somebody where they're willing to learn and listen, they're just waiting for their turn to speak, and most likely they're going to wind up shouting over you anyway. I think one of the biggest problems is that we are all looking at each other as being monolithic. In other words, there's the left, the right, there's this group, that group, and human beings are not monolithic. We are nanoshades of gray. You've got conservatives that are pro-choice. You've got liberals that are pro-life because they're Catholic. I mean, you can't assign, a completely binary value to any one group, and you can't do it to people either. And when you start reducing people to, these pigeonhole stereotypes, it breeds tribalism, and that is the most divisive thing there is.
So social media have a lot to do with that?
Yeah. It's got a whole lot to do with it. It does. I think people say a lot of stuff on social media that they certainly wouldn't say face to face with people.
Sure.
Yeah, there's just a general lack of civility and compassion that I think even when I was a kid was greater, and I'm sure when my parents were kids was even greater yet. And I don't know. There's become such a business of instigating divisiveness among people,
Right.
that we need to really figure this one out, because people forget America is an experiment, and it's a young experiment.
Sure.
About 250 years old, and there is no guarantee that this experiment is going to continue and progress and grow. We have to be the stewards of it and take care of it, which means being good to each other. And you can disagree with somebody without character assassinating and eviscerating the core of who they are as a human being, because you disagree with one opinion.
I have to tell you, I have a lot of friends from different walks being in media, and there's always a respect. And I've had people on my podcast show, and I've had people say, "Why did you have them on?" I said, "Because we're here to educate and learn about why they think the way they do.
Yeah.
It's not my place to tell people how to think. My
Right.
place is just to be the messenger, which is not a very popular place to be. But how are we going to learn if we don't disagree? I mean, how are we going to learn to be able to be
I
on the
agree.
same planet? And there is only one race, and you're right, it's the human race."
Human race. Right. And no, it's mind boggling to me when people want to shut down speech because they find it offensive. Well, that's what the First Amendment gives us the right to do. And, I think that we're all pretty smart. And I think that if you allow a lot of the opinions that, people fear to be out in public, people understand and get it and will choose to either combat it with intelligent debate, but it doesn't need to be silenced out of fear or anger. It needs to be debated down, not shut down.
I got to tell you, I get a lot out of this podcast, more than I even imagined, and what an honor
Thank you.
to have you on. I'm going to say our show because it is our show, and to be able to get the message out of what you're talking about, and what a wonderful book that you have out right now for the right time. And I would highly recommend. Are you going to do an Audible version of this?
Yeah, I am going to do an audible version of both books. That is my goal. I actually started recording one, and I just, I didn't get the sound right, and I decided I was going to put that away and write the second book. So that's what I decided to do.
Well, you know, I could do the talking part, even though you're the actor. And I'm just teasing.
No, I got to
But
do my own talking. I got to
I'm
do.
just teasing you.
But I do have to plug my appearance though for because I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. I'm going to be at the Barnes and Noble in NC.
Yeah. So I'm gonna come by and
Oh, please
actually
come by. That's going to be so great if you come by. I would love to.
I'm gonna reschedule I'm gonna see if we're in town, and I'm gonna see if we can get over there and support you. And my audience,
I'll be there. I'll
anybody
be
in
there.
Please
San Diego,
come. It's going to be really cool. It's
I'll
going
be
to
there.
be
I'll be
Saturday at 2 p.m. So what we're going to do is I'm gonna do a reading from the book. We're gonna have a moderated interview and a Q&A. I bring lots of fun swag and give stuff away and sign copies of the books. And it's a really great meet and greet, intimate environment. And they're a lot of fun. I've done several Barnes and Nobles, and they've been really big successes. So please come out Saturday. It's free. It's open to the public. You don't even have to buy a book if you don't want.
well, will you have a copy of the first book there, or do you? I mean,
Yes, both books will be available.
good. So everybody that just is tuning in, he highly recommends getting the first book, which was called,
Way of the Cobra.
and then their new book is Welcome to the Kumite.
Welcome to the Kumite.
Okay.
It's on.
So, any last thing you would like to say to anybody, of course, before we take off? And you're going to go work out at the gym right now, right?
No, well, actually, you know what I did? I taught a self-defense seminar today to the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department.
Good for you.
And
Good for you.
that about killed me because we did board breaking and all sorts of fun stuff. And like I said, I'm kind of fluish today, so I'm taking it easy. Anything else I want to say? I just really enjoyed that. This was a really great conversation, and we seem like we're kindred spirits, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better, Brett.
I
And
feel like we've known
thank
each other for a long time, and I
Yeah.
don't feel that way with everybody, but I think we're on the same page. But
I think so.
we really need to work with our youth, and I'm really concerned about what's going on with their minds and all this depression and all this the things that are going on that these kids shouldn't be going through.
Absolutely.
They need to take on a sport or a martial art of some type. I think would be probably the greatest medication that they could probably ever even think about taking.
I would agree.
Doing.
I agree. And listen, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Sean.Kanan on Instagram or
Yes.
at Sean Kanan on Twitter. And I keep my DMs on and I try and respond to as many people as I can. And, if you're interested in getting involved with my one-on-one coaching or have questions about the book, I'm happy to try and answer for you.
Well, I'm excited, and we've got a lecture series coming up with Lee Steinberg, the sports agent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you more about that down the
Sure.
road and see if maybe we could get you as one of our speakers. I think you would be phenomenal, and you'd hit it out of the park.
I would
Thank you so much, Sean, for being on the
We'll
show.
look forward to seeing you Saturday. Okay, Brett?
You're amazing. Okay, everybody.
Take care, girls. It was a pleasure.
Let's
Oh my God,
support
it's so much
Sean.
fun.
Let's support him and get the book.
Hey, you guys
Welcome to the
are
Kumatai.
multiplying.
Yeah, there's like a line. First of all, let me tell everybody it's a line in here right now. This is not a book signing. He's not here.
It's just straight.
All right, well, I know what you guys look like now, so if I don't see you Saturday.
Oh, I'll be there. She won't.
All right.
You take care, my friend.
All right, guys, take care. Thanks.
Okay, everybody. What a great
Bye-bye.
guy. Highly recommend picking up the book. And I want to thank my sponsors, Dr. Melinda Silva, who's my partner in crime, Sequan Casino Resort and Spa, Attorney King, Labella's Pizzeria in Chula Vista. We have a lot of new sponsors. Luli Lou Flowers in Imperial Beach. I highly recommend her flowers. She's going to, I give gifts. I give her flowers all the time. You're going to be hearing more about Luli Lou Flowers. Alan Kinzel, one of the top real estate agents in Southern California. Garage Bonificetta. Marco, thank you for what you do. And look forward to having Woman of the Year, an event we're going to be putting on in San Diego. We're looking for the top 12 women of the year. Send me the information at brettdavis2020@yahoo.com. And our jeweler sponsor for that event is Mule Jewelers in Coronado, who's going to be making some beautiful necklaces and some types of jewelry that she's going to be putting together for the awards. Thank you to Mule Jewelers. She works on all my jewelry, her and her mom. They do a phenomenal job. I highly recommend them, of course. You will be happy. They do even estimates of value what jewelry is. So you got to check this place out. It's in Coronado on Orange Avenue. The Lone Queen, Adriana Gibbons. Thank you. One of the best mortgage people I've ever worked with. And I've done numerous mortgages with her. Never had any snags. We got all these new support people that we are just come aboard recently. And the show's growing like a weed. All of our shows are growing. Marina Teal, also of IB Fitness. I have to say thank you to her for what she does with her show. Does a phenomenal job. And thank you, Marina Teal, who's a great leader. And you'll be hearing more about her lectures that she's going to be doing that she's not even aware of. And thank you to Sean Kanan, of course. Welcome to Kumatai. And for everybody out there, let's pick up the copy of that book. And everybody take care, be nice, and be like Reagan.